Hello, everyone. Welcome back to From Havoc to Harmony at Home, our online conscious parenting course. We are going to do a nice webinar today. I have asked you for your feedback, and based on that feedback, I've prepared a presentation for us. And at the end, Marazanne is also going to give us a bonus insight. So, this webinar really is about reconnecting with the journey. Sometimes we have this kind of goal in mind in terms of our parenting, and we have all these achievements that we need to kind of feel good about ourselves and feel good about our parenting. But now we know it really isn't about the destination, it's about the journey. The journey is the destination. So you are not going to go somewhere. You have actually already arrived. The moment that you are in the now and you can be completely present, then you're stepping into your full potential as a conscious parent, and then you're doing what you were born to do. So that is an amazing just arrival within yourself. So one of the questions that I got was about, children unraveling and when we're actually having tantrums. So I wanted to remind you of the shadow states of learning. Everything about conscious parenting is happening in the shadow between the dark and the light. So when we are in a difficult situation with our child, it kind of feels like the end of the world, but it is what happens between that moment to when we have like an aha moment, like, oh, okay, now I see what's going on here, and you have the relief. It's the in between those 2 points where all the learning happens. So I put a little avatar together for us of a child that is just in a really dense space, really difficult moment, like this boy, super, super frustrated. And now at this point in the conscious parenting course, where we've really moved very much away from the havoc towards the harmony, we know that we conceptually have separated conscious parenting into all these concepts, from the core wound to the hereditary patterns, the shocks on the timeline, how our energy levels affect us, and the role of the mind in all of this. So we know that we're not going to be able to deal with the evil elf avatar when our child arrives, in effect of all these conceptual breakdowns of what we actually deal with in conscious parenting. We're not going to be able to deal with it if we don't have excellent energy management on our side. So that is why the compass of health is so important. It sounds so basic, but it really, really is where it all starts in terms of the practical, physical things that we can do. It's the easiest place to start. I also had a question on children that are clingy. And for example, they don't want to separate from you and they're having a hard time, or they'll have a meltdown around separation. And this is likely to happen at the birth of a sibling, or a couple of months after the birth of a sibling, or when your child has to go to preschool. So this is really their first experiences that they will remember of kind of a separation from your energetic system. When it comes to preschool, then they need to physically separate from you. When it comes to a sibling, they're like, oh my goodness, there's another person that's sharing my mother's energy system with me. And so it's mostly actually the firstborn that would feel it, because no other person on this earth will ever have the access to your energy system the same as your firstborn. Everybody else shares your system with you. Not even your husband, no matter how much in love you are, has this type of access to your internal being as the firstborn. So when you are struggling with separation anxiety, remember to backchain these events. For example, if it's a preschool, then take your child later in the morning. Don't take them first thing in the morning. Then they unravel and they're really having a hard time, and then they call you. Then you go and you fetch your child and you take them home early. That is how your child will remember school feels, and they will not have the experience of having separated from you and it's been successful. So even if they separated well and then they have a tough time dealing with managing their emotions away from you, and then you come in and you save the day, then you've not really completed that lesson yet. So to make it easier for them, rather take them later in the morning and then take them earlier and build on that so they can be there for the whole morning, so that they can take their little backpack and leave the school with their friends. Something that also helps is, for example, taking a plant from home to school, where the children then look after the plant at school. This is something that we've used quite a lot after this long break from school. Can you imagine all these parents taking their preschoolers to school for the first time in masks and shields, and just handing them over to the teacher at the door? Only one parent can go in at a time, and then that's it. They weren't even allowed to be in the classroom. So it's really been kind of tough. And so a plant also helped. And one of the things when I worked with preschools this year that we did was take something from home that you like. So some children actually did go with blankets or teddies that they are attached to at home, and it really helped them. When a child is also moaning, nagging, or talking back to you constantly, I want you to remember that this is an incredibly powerful, smart way to plug into your energy system and take energy from you. So the child or the parent is then in that moment low on energy. So you have to check which one it is that's low on energy. If your child's moaning all the time, they might be low on energy. So they want to plug into you to replenish their system. If you are low on energy, your child will know. They will feel it, and then they are going to moan more and be more demanding to try and plug into your system to take energy from you, to kind of see, is it there? Is what I need there? So we have to remember that children use what work. So if you have seen a pattern of moaning, it means that it has been working. If that pattern wasn't working, they wouldn't be doing it. So it is working for them. So you have to respond in a way that you're not going to feed that habit, and you have to understand that it's an old pattern, an old habit, and often it's a mirror. Often we moan at them all the time. We nag them all the time. So then they start moaning and nagging at us. So they're mirroring our patterns. So you can just do a little bit of research around that and see where is this problem really coming from. Remember about tantrums. Tantrums are not problems. Tantrums are opportunities. Opportunities to let it out, to discharge everything that is working in on the child in that moment. And those are the core wound, hereditary patterns, timeline issues, and low energy levels. So we want that stuff to come out and to be on the floor. We do not want our child to be holding those dense frequencies that they've inherited and acquired along the way. So while they discharge them, we are waiting it out. So we're just going to show that we have a big container for all these intense emotions, but we are not going to become part of the problem. So we are not going to become reactive. And through that, we show our child that this behavior pattern is a discharge for you, and I'm holding space, but I'm not participating in it. So it's not going to work to meet the other needs that that go with it. We're just discharging it, and then we are working again through our connection and our communication. I'm not going to give you what you want because of the behavior. I'm going to give you what you want when we are connected and communicating. In the meantime, what is troubling you, what is causing this dense, uncomfortable space within you, let it out. It is welcome. The more we resist tantrums, the more they persist. I know parents who have spent literally a lifetime avoiding conflict, being afraid of conflict with their siblings, their own parents, their partner, and then their child will take them there. So, we, even if we try our best to avoid conflict and we don't like tantrums, we will need to work through these dense moments. They're there for a reason. And when we see it as an opportunity instead of a problem, things really change. When we have a tantrum, there's absolutely nothing that's wrong. It's just a reaction, and we are looking for the reason why our child is having this reaction. If we're having a reaction, then we have to look at the reason why we are having the reaction. So we will wait our reaction out. We want to not have a massive reaction with our child and try to control them in that moment, because we will be reinforcing the pattern while we are actually trying to fade it out. And fading out is not a snap of the fingers. Fading out is like starvation. You're literally starving that pattern of the energy that has been put into it. So starving happens over quite a long time. It doesn't just happen overnight. So we want to just withdraw the energy from our child's pattern while we remain connected with them and we continue communicating with them. And at the same time, we need to know that we have to be super patient. It is what it is, and we have to accept what is, knowing that there's purpose to what is. So we also have to manage the situation around thinking time. So our child had a tantrum and now they're having some thinking time, which is the cool down time, which is a great follow up on a tantrum often, if the child didn't get what they want. So you want to get back to that space to connect with them and communicate with them. So thinking time is the process time where everything will calm down, and then you're creating the space for the connection and the communication again. So when your child gets up out of thinking time, then you have to check what measures have you put in place to secure this as a space where they are doing the internal work at that moment without you having to control them in that space. We want them to be independent while they are there. So just a quick reminder of the 2 fingers on the shoulders of the child if you're standing behind them, just like this, and you just do 2 fingers on you're not pushing them down with your hands, you just put them there. I do that even when they are sitting. I just give them a little finger pressure points on the shoulder, and then they know that's where I want them to be. And you have to be careful with a visual. So if you add something to the wall where you do thinking time, there's, for example, a picture that they shouldn't be spitting, and there's a picture that says ask for what you need, then they could be looking at that. Or you can put a wobble pillow for them on the seat so they can move on their seat. Or you can put one of the rubber bands around the chair that they're sitting on so that they can, move their feet in the rubber band. Give them a little bit of stimulation. We don't want them to sit and play with a toy, but you can help them remain there. And they need to know, of course, the duration. How long are they going to sit there, and how long have they already been sitting there? That is why sand timers are very effective, because you can watch that. And you can also have apps where you can see sand running out of a sand timer, or you see these beautiful kind of mirages of different colors moving over the screen, and then a little alarm goes off. Or like, for example, the Apple Watch has that breathe app. So you can put these kinds of things in place so that they can see how long they've been there, and that you actually are giving them either a little bit of physical stimulation to help them, or visual stimulation in terms of the lesson that they're learning to help them remain there. And otherwise, of course, you're going to have to take them back to the chair if they got up, and then you start the timer again. So they very quickly are going to realize, well, if I get up, then I have to start from the beginning of my 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or 5 minutes, which means now I'm actually sitting for longer. But don't have long chats with them. It's just the same as if they would wake up in the middle of the night. You're not going to go down to the kitchen and eat ice cream with them and put the light on and have a long chat. You're going to just pat them on the back and remain with them in the dark and not stimulate them at all, but reassure them, let them go back to sleep, and then go to your own room. We want that independence to develop. If your child cannot stay there initially, then you can do a countdown, a longer countdown, like literally you can do, say, 60 and count backwards as a countdown. So that's like a whole minute. And then that would be at least your child have done a minute then, if the other measures aren't working yet. So that means the two of you are counting together because they need you still in that space. And then you begin to put the alarm clock for them and say, okay, now just look at the alarm, watch the sand running out. I'll be back when you're ready. So then you've secured the space a little bit for them. You've given them a little bit of support, and then you start fading yourself out of that. Always, we are working on our pillars of pure being. We want our children to become autonomous beings, creative autonomous beings that are energetically whole. So we want their energetic independence to be there from outside sources of energy for validation and attention. We want them to be radically responsible. So that is why we show them the power of their choices and the consequences for their choices. We are not punishing them. This is not, parenting is not about punishing. Parenting is about showing your child, this is the choice you made, and this is the consequence, and then facilitating following through with that consequence for them and on their behalf, supporting them through it so that they are learning and they don't have this fear of making mistakes. It's just like, no, we are learning. It's a good thing when things go wrong. That means that we've got something to learn, and we do, and we move on. We also want that really authentic expression for our child. We don't want them to be pleasing. They don't need to be perfect. We don't want them to be stressed about what others think, including us. We want them to be real, and we don't just want them to be a follower. We want them to be confident. So if they're just always following us, then how can we expect them then to still stand up for themselves with other human beings, whether it's a bully or a mean teacher or a friend that's trying to control them? If they are used to bending the knee for authority, then they will do that for any other dominant field. So we don't want that. We want that real collaboration in the partnership that they develop in the parenting, so that they're not vulnerable to dominant fields of energy. Then, of course, parents are also going into these shadow triggered states of learning, and we can also lose it. We definitely can also lose it. We don't need to feel guilty or ashamed about the fact that we sometimes lose it. There is a lot of pressure on us, and when we don't actually understand what it is, then of course we're going to lose it more. And that is what actually creates the havoc. When we feel, oh my God, I'm going to lose it, then we try not to go there, which means we're trying to control ourselves as well. And that measure of control on us just puts more pressure and stress on us. The mind, our meaning making machine, is always, of everyone on the planet, the most critical of ourselves. So we have to understand that we are always in a state of learning. So we cannot keep judging ourselves in terms of whether we're doing a good job or not. You're always doing a good job. You're always doing the best job that you can, and that's perfect. So we have to, again, have that reminder of the compass of health, have the really good energy levels. We have to understand past trauma in our lives because it affects our boundaries. If you felt out of control previously in your life, in other relationships, if you feel insecure about relationships, betrayed, helpless, and victimized, you will feel this with your child as well. Even when they're 3 years old, your real shadow triggered state will come from a space where you are feeling like a victim in that moment. So you might come across super aggressive to your child when actually you trying to protect yourself. You're being assertive because you have had these past traumatic events. And so we do need to look at them, and we do need to heal and get past them, or they work in on our parenting. Our inherited patterns, of course, are also there. So we have to put systems in place to manage our children when we know that something like, for example, anger runs in the family. If we know impulsivity runs in the family, then we are going to face those patterns in our parenting. Nobody is that in control of themselves that their hereditary patterns cannot overpower them. We all become overpowered by our hereditary patterns when we are run down, and we all do become run down. We all can't always, follow the compass of health perfectly. We do too much, especially moms. We do way too much. So the core wound, of course, of not feeling good enough, nowhere more does it get triggered as much as in our parenting with our children. The moment you have lost it with your child, you just have so much guilt and shame surfacing that actually doesn't have to do with that moment. You think it has to do with that moment, but everything where you ever felt guilty or ashamed of your behavior in that particular moment, all of that is surfacing, because when we experience shame and guilt, we suppress it. It is one of the most painful experiences that we can have. So then it will keep on popping up with your child. So that's another opportunity to heal that. So we also have to remember not to stay too much in the male. So we spoke about the effect of our male energy on us as women. And so when you kind of the whole day go, I'm managing it, I'm micromanaging it, do this, guys, do this, don't do that. And it's just like the rules, and you're just, coming back to the finger pointing parenting. That's very male. It's a kind of dominant. And then you're just having your parenting like a rubber band. So the rubber band is just like, you're controlling yourself, you're controlling yourself, you're controlling yourself. And then your child does something really small, and bing, that rubber band snaps back and you lose it. So be very aware of the rubber band effect. Of course, when we run out of energy, that is also the rubber band effect. That is when we cannot hold that pressure anymore, because conscious parenting takes a lot of energy. That is why I said that this conscious parenting course is a profoundly powerful personal development project, because you can use these strategies with your partner, you can use it with your family members, you can use it with your colleagues at work. You are actually just managing your own system and stepping into that power of everything that you are, having your boundaries very firm and secure, and having your confidence in place. And then other people will start to push your buttons a lot less. So you need to know where you are at. So losing it is actually like, oh my goodness, I'm losing it today. I've lost it today. So then you know exactly where you are at. And that is just all that you need to see. You do not need to judge it beyond that point. The moment you see that where you are at, then you're like, why am I in this place? And you turn within to figure out that why. And then when you see that you're a little bit too much in the male, then eventually you will run out of energy, because this from the female energy is receptive. It's receiving the energy, it's taking the energy in, and the male energy is providing, so it's giving the energy out. And we can't just give and not take energy in. When we don't take energy in, we are going to run out of it. And so we have to balance structure, that is male, when we're implementing our strategies from the conscious parenting toolbox, with flow, which is the female energy. When you balance these two forces within yourself, it really helps you. I actually came to the truth of this concept of the balance of the male and the female within parenting while I was writing this course. And so I'm so excited that I've kind of seen this concept, because now that I've seen it, now I just see it everywhere. And I just realize how powerful it is, even still for me with my children much older. But for you, when you have young children, This is super powerful, especially when you're raising girls. Really, really powerful. And for boys, it's also important because we don't always respect boys and recognize that they have their feminine energy as well. And we kind of block them from experiencing it, and then also give them a message that there's a requirement of them to stay in the male to be successful, and then they're not. It's for both males and females that both forces within each need to be balanced. I also want to come back to the sessions because it's been a while since we spoke about that, but I know that you're still doing a lot of homeschooling, virtual schooling, and blended learning this year. So I think it's a good one to revise as well. I want to remind you that I've done those original videos when I let you know about the course. And each of those top tips, my top 5 tips for home education hacks, relates to the modules. So the first tip is, of course, mirror, mirror on the wall. Who is responsible for it all? And that is just about the conscious parent turning within. And that is why it related so strongly to the first module. The second one is that setup of the session. You have to set up for success. You have to be proactive. That's all the male energy stuff. You start with the icebreaker, where you have an activity that is of your child's choosing, that they really enjoy. They are really good at it. They feel great when you say, let's do this. So you don't have a problem inviting them in to come and join you at the table. This is extremely important because children are spending massive amounts of time with us at the moment at the table, and it's more than usual. They don't have their usual routine and the variety of a schedule. So it's pretty much often now parents and their children stuck at the dining room table. So we have to use an icebreaker. That will make it easy for your child to respond positively to your invitation to start. And then the teaching, of course, needs to be errorless. So the child isn't going to make any mistakes, because if they make mistakes when you start and you need to correct them, they are going to feel judged, and then resistance will enter the equation. So this is also the first layer of our Oreo cookie. If we use the Oreo cookie as an example of how we lay out a session. The second phase would be where we do the work. And so we're really slipping the work here in on the middle. If you know the work is super, super hard, please rather break that activity down into some steps and teach them some of the steps that you know they will respond well to, and then kind of stop when you see that they've had enough and move to the top layer of the cookie, where you are then again giving them a choice about what they're going to do. This last activity in terms of these 3 layers of the cookie can be movement medicine, where we looked at all the gym equipment that you can use for your child. It could be a little food as medicine, so a little tray with some healthy snacks on for them. And of course, you can also do an activity that is educational, that is reinforcing the work that you did in the filling part of the cookie. But they won't really know that you're doing something educational. So that could be something on an iPad, for example, watching a song together, doing a game together that reinforces the filling part, the work part that you completed. So that way your child will have a great time with you, and you're unlikely to have as much resistance. And that timing of it needs to be perfect. So the filling will get thicker and thicker and thicker, and the cookies will become thinner and thinner. So you spend less time in the setup of the icebreaker and the movement medicine, for example, and more time on the work as you progress. And then eventually they won't even need the outside sections. They'll just be happy to go in and do the work, and they will provide the first and the last step for themselves. They'll become independent with, they'll just jump up and jump on the trampoline a little bit, and then they'll start with their work again. So they'll learn to alternate work and reinforcement work, reinforcement work, reinforcement themselves. When we, of course, have a blockage, when our child says no to us, then we use extinction, and we've got the steps, which I will share with you again in more detail in a way that you can literally just print it out and laminate it and put it for yourself somewhere in the kitchen, or give it to your nanny or your pair to follow those steps. So the first part of extinction is, of course, plugging out, because we want to deal with the child without becoming part of the problem. Then we're going to follow through with as little as possible prompting to develop the independence and the cooperation. Then we plug back in because they're back on track. And then we follow up later with a story, social story, or a lesson. But we don't do that while we're having the problem. We do it later. We find an opportunity to actually teach. And the fifth tip from my top 5 tips for homeschool hacks was, of course, the visual. And I really enjoyed presenting on the visuals. And when I put videos on Instagram, those videos actually did really, really well. A lot of people responded very positively to the visual side of the conscious parenting. So because it's really easy and natural and fun, and your child is part of the process. So all these other strategies that we do, that's part of the conscious parenting toolbox, a lot of those are male energy strategies. And so that makes it possible for us to, when we actually want to do the female side of the energetic exchange, we will follow the visual schedule, because the visual schedule is what shows the flow. So once you've put the visual schedule up and you're working on it and setting that up for every day, you are then able to see the flow of the day, go with the flow for the day, and it makes it easier for you to stay within the female energy. I wanted to also talk to you a little bit about siblings, when the little ones go for each other. So I'm going to post this visual as well for you in the group this week. I think this is such a lovely visual that you can also print out with the children and laminate for them. And then it's like a wheel, and you can actually put it on a pin and spin it, like spin and see which option, or just go and choose consciously which option you want to use as a brother or a sister with your brother or sister. So the one, of course, is walk away, let it go. That is a win. Don't give the person your energy. If you give the person your energy, then you've lost energy to the person. You've given your power to that person. So just walk away, let it go, especially when you know you're not going to win the argument. If you think you can win, that's good. That's what we do as conscious parents as well. We don't go into battles we know we're going to lose. We only go into the ones we know that we are going to get cooperation with. So if you know that your sibling is not going to give you cooperation, then it means you are just going to walk away and not give them your energy, and then later we'll try again. You can tell them to stop. This has to be a firm stop without emotion. So if you go, stop. I know it's so annoying when they do it, even for me, it's like really grates my energy system. Like stop. So no, you have to say stop. And if you want to get that personal space with the person, you can just put your hand out, give the arm's distance to the person, and tell them a firm stop, not an emotional stop, not a nagging stop. Go to do another activity. Of course, rock, paper, scissors, make a choice by taking a chance. And when you respond to your sibling, you have to say, I feel, instead of you. So I feel that you're not sharing with me right now, instead of going, you are not sharing with me. So if you teach them this little trick as well, it often helps you get past a blockage with a sibling, if you have one sibling a little bit more dominant than the other in their personalities. Then of course you can apologize, but you only want a sincere and authentic apology. An apology that's not real will not be accepted. You can have family talk time, so you can talk things out. Family meetings are really great, and really helps everybody clear the air and everybody say how they feel, and then you also really discover what's going on in a lot of different areas when you have family meetings. And the children can say, I want this, I don't want somebody to just walk into my room, I want people to knock. And so you really can respect each other when you have regular meetings. Of course, you can ignore someone, but what does ignore really mean? So that means we have to teach our children extinction. We have to teach them how to unplug from that energy exchange, how to walk away. For example, if you want to walk away and you walk away crying, or you walk away like this, it's very different from when you walk away with confidence, as if nothing happened. That's really what it is. If you stomp away, or if you walk away crying, or if you run to mommy, then you have still lost the game. Your sibling took energy from you, and they still have power over you, and they know exactly what to do next time to push your buttons. So you want to teach your children the poker face when they know that something is triggering them, and that reaction from them is playing right into the other sibling's hands. So also we can teach them how to wait things out, how to cool down first, and not to experience a loss of self to another person. And not to make it mean anything. It's just a reaction in the moment. So love and connection is infinite and eternal. It doesn't mean your sister hates you just because they said she just because she said she hates you, or she doesn't want to play with you, or she doesn't want to share with you. It means absolutely nothing about how they feel about you. So it's very important to make that distinction as well for children. So many adult siblings are not speaking with each other, or are even afraid of one another and not being real with one another, because they are afraid of the other sibling's reaction, even as adults. And then, they are afraid to be judged, they're afraid to be kind of bullied even. And we do need to get over this, so we can be raw and real with each other, because we are still siblings. And that's a very important blockage actually to address when you notice that that is there with your own family members, because you do not want that pattern to play out between your own children if you can prevent it. This morning, I went for a long paddle on the ocean on that break wall I told you about, when I was sharing about the jellyfish parenting, where the jellyfish in their massive pots every year come in and then die at that wall, because they don't understand that they've met a blockage. They might just be thinking they're feeding off a reef, and that they died there because they didn't realize they could hang back, or wait for the high tide, or take an exit. And how that is in stark contrast to the hummingbird that I observed in Peru. So we, of course, are hummingbird parents, fully arriving in our hummingbird parenting state of mind now, and we can hold space from this perspective. The helicopter is also quite a good example, but the helicopter, of course, is very mechanical. The hummingbird is dynamic. The hummingbird is, flying up and down and left and right and backwards and forwards and hovering. So if we think of the hummingbird as the parenting style and the hummingbird launching pad, then there's some important concepts that I want to keep in mind. So when you start feeling a little bit triggered, if you just remember this, and you can also make a visual and put it for you up somewhere, then you are going to step into conscious parenting, because conscious awareness is the transmutive agent for evolution, and you are evolving and your family is evolving. So we're doing something really special here. So the first thing you have to do is practice the pause. So don't react. When you react, you'll be reinforcing the pattern. Observe, don't absorb. The moment you absorb, you will blame, and when you blame, you'll also feel shame. Flow, not forced. When we resist anything, it will persist. So try to go with the flow and rely on your strategies and set up for success. We also have to be the presence and not the person. So the image that I always have is of the higher self as the puppeteer versus the lower self with the ego. and the mind, the meaning making machine, and we want the puppeteer to be pulling the puppet strings. We don't just want to go into the physical part of our being, where we have our impulses, our thoughts, our feelings, our lack of control, when we're losing it. These are all just symptoms. That's what the puppet is for. The puppet is there to show us how we are expressing all the deep, deep spiritual concepts of the conscious parenting course, like the hereditary patterns, the core wound, and our old traumas. So if you can hold that image of the puppeteer and the presence, you're going to be very successful, and your whole toolkit will then be available to you to draw on the power of the strategies as well. Um, of course, we have the male that's providing the structure with the strategies, the proactive, the plan, and the female that is the flow and the strength of vulnerability. And we are making an agreement and trying to get cooperation and collaboration with our child in the conscious parenting partnership. That if you keep this H in mind, it's definitely going to help you stay in that holding space. We want our child to be autonomous. And so whatever your child it's a co-creative act. Your child never has a problem. If you have a non-compliant, resistant, angry child, that defiance is part of a co-creative act. And if you have a confident, cooperative child that's collaborating with you, that is also a co-creative act. We cannot separate the child from the parent. I'm going to post this for you as well this week, the extinction burst. So it's a nice printable sheet that you can laminate and also put up. So the first stage, of course, of extinction is the unplug. Neutralize yourself. Do not show any emotion. Limit your eye contact. Look at the children, not too deep into their eyes. Only one verbal instruction. State what the child should do. Do not become angry, irritated, or emotional. Say the child's name over and over. Phrase your command as a request. Please, can you? Shout over the room. Rather get up and deal with it. Then we go to the second phase, which is the follow through phase with the instruction. Stop what you're doing. Go to the child and make them do what they're supposed to do. Place them on the chair. Get them to stand up. Block them from an area. Ask them to calm down. Ask them what they want. Then you wait for the right time to act. You might have to give a short pause so the child can process the information and make a choice. And you do not want to interfere in the middle of a tantrum. Try to communicate using Makaton, visuals, and minimum clear language, and create a safe zone. Make sure the child cannot hurt themselves while they're upset or throwing a tantrum. It's very easy for them to, knock their head on a table and stuff like that. So just take things out of the way for them. Try to distract or redirect them. And if it doesn't work, wait it out. Plug back in the third phase. So once the child is back on track, you plug back in. Now you show emotion and praise them. You look deep into their eyes. You say their name as many times as you like, and you use as many words as you possibly want. This is the time that you can talk, because you're reinforcing the good result. You are back on track. So do not talk about the negative behavior at this time. Why are you crying? Or why did you cry? And why did you do that? Or see, if you only did this first and you didn't do that. No. We only talk about what we want to see. So you will see more of the positive. And then the follow-up process is the teaching, the social story. If you've noticed that they lack some skills, and you do this later when they can process the information. I am also going to share with you this week my book on tapping. This is an awesome book. So I won't go into this as much. And even though this book is called Tapping for Kids, it has got just the perfect layout. So if you are tapping as an adult, you of course are tapping on behalf of your inner child. So this book is for all of us. It's a lovely book. It deals with anger, worry, bullying, even sleeping, you can tap before sleeping. I'm going to share some videos in our group this week, and I'm also going to share that book with you, the whole book, so you'll be able to read through that with your child and adapt it to their needs. And I will share videos as well with you with regards to tapping so that you can practice that. Now, the big thing about tapping is that you do need to be proactive about it. Practice all the time, and then when your child is in a tough moment, you can do it with them. That works really well. Marazanne is going to do a little inset for us today on healthy fruit snacks and sensory play, and also some tips on potty training. We are going to delve into these concepts together next year. We're going to run a whole series of webinars, and I will send out that information to you early in the new year so that you can join, and see what fits your needs. They will be single trainings, so we're really excited to do that for you, and she's going to help you with that today. And this is my final slide for today. So as always, remember that information is kind of useless. Oh my goodness, we are so overwhelmed with information these days. Information without application is not transformation. So we need to apply this information to have the transformation. And this course, of course, is about transformation. And I know how powerful it is because I have felt the power of it work on me. When I wrote it, like I said, that is when I really saw this missing link that I've had about the male and the female. Throughout the course, I've just had a super amazing experience with all of you doing this live. So life is our teacher, and we are in a constant state of learning. That's your task 1. So that's a task for the rest of your life. And remember, the good days is when the conscious mind is aware of the harmony and the result of all the hard work. And the bad days are not bad days. There are no bad days. When you are a conscious parent, a bad day, what feels bad isn't necessarily bad. That's just the critical thinking of the meaning-making machine, the mind. So the subconscious mind is just aware of where we still have havoc. So a blockage is surfacing, and we just seeing where we are at and what other work we need to do. Right now, I'm going to hand you over to Marazanne.
So, where is my... Hi. Oh, why is this now not working? Hi, sorry about that. My video didn't start working. And let me share my screen. Share. Oh, goodness. There we go, back on track. Thank you so much, Mariette, for this opportunity. And I'm so excited to share with you some of the nutritional tips and hacks that I've learned as a mom, as a holistic nutritionist, and also as my years as my experience as an early years educator. So, we start with our young child and we introduce them possibly to solid foods using baby-led weaning. But as our child matures, we find that our child is refusing more child, showing aversions to food that they used to eat. And before we know it, we are in this pattern of negotiations of how much broccoli and carrots they're going to eat. And we really feel that we're losing so much control. So one of the concepts that I want to introduce and discuss with you and share with you is play with your food. So obviously, if you were I'm sure lots of parents still use this phrase, but definitely when we were younger, our mother used to say, don't play with your food, eat all your food, the children in Africa are starving. And of course, I used to just think to myself, well, I am a child in Africa, but food is a sensory experience, and the mechanics of eating is a physical sensation of food, of taste, but food is a sensory experience involving all of our senses. When helping a child explore a wider choice of food, simply eating it or saying, eat it, is not enough to convince most children to try new food. You will just be met with a no. As parents, we then also buy into the idea of, well, he doesn't eat that, and we stop offering it because often we feel, well, why am I going to waste my time, my money, and my energy on presenting a food again that I already know they're not going to try? But playing with our food is definitely frowned upon as a wasteful notion, or especially where I live in Oman, it is seen as disrespectful. So I've had to work quite hard where at my nursery to introduce the concept that food has many aspects to it, not just for eating. But for a child who is consuming a limited diet, often extremely low in nutrients, because it's often fruit and vegetables that they are avoiding, exploring fresh fruit and vegetables in sensory play removes the pressure of eating it while exploring textures, smell, and taste. So we're not going to play with our food on our plates. We're going to play with our food in a sensory environment. So here you can see a photo of a little girl that used to be in my class. Obviously, with COVID, nurseries are still closed in Oman. But here she's painting with a lemon and she's doing her process art. So before she's painting with that lemon, she has smelt it, she's licked it, she has put a finger on it. So all her senses are involved. So one of the wonderful activities is painting with your fresh fruit and vegetables. And there's lovely, lovely activities on Pinterest. So please explore them. Um, a big thing, eat fruit and vegetables together. Explain what you are experiencing, the textures, the taste, and share it. Would you like some of my orange? Would you like a bite of apple? Can you smell it, touch it, lick it? Put your finger on it. Can you now lick your finger? Can you kiss it? I've seen children who only come with white bread sandwiches to nursery, lick a watermelon, and just that enough is such a massive yes, as opposed to eat it and when you are met with a no. So having a sensory bin or tray, trough table, um, available with free access to your child that you can set up in an area where they can make a mess. So it's a contained space like a tray. And on that tray, you will provide your fresh fruit and vegetables in an activity that you set up so that the children can explore it without any pressure. Then you cut and carve fruit and vegetables together, ideal like now when it's Halloween. Scoop out that pumpkin, explore it, touch it, feel it, smell it. It's wet, it's sticky. All of a sudden, it's so much more fun to explore. And of course, plant seeds and connect to where these food comes from. I've even done it in the past where I've scooped out the seeds from a tomato and planted those seeds, and then those seeds sprout and grow little tomato plants, and it's a wonderful process for the children to see because they really connect with where that plant is coming from. How we speak about our food. This is the big one because often we'll say, eat your broccoli, eat your carrot, and then you get your treat. So we put so much excitement and emphasis on the food that we consider treats and rewards. So I want to share a story with you here about Peter. Peter had never been to McDonald's, and it was just a decision Sam and I had made. And he was on a school trip, school bus, and all the children saw the Mackie D arches and they said, McDonald's, McDonald's, woohoo, McDonald's. He came home and I was like, how was your trip? And he said, I want to go to McDonald's. I said, what do you know about McDonald's? I had just never spoken about it in any capacity. So he said, I don't know what it is, but I want to go. So I had explained it to him and I thought I'd be honest. I said, look, it's good, it's delicious, but it's not good for you. So every time we would drive past it, he would go, McDonald's, delicious, but also bleh, good, not good for you. So he knew how to push my buttons there a little bit. And then we went to a friend's house and they ordered a Happy Meal for all the children, and he tried it and he was so disappointed. And he said, this is not a good burger. I'm not enjoying this at all. But it really brought home for me how we communicate about our food. So communicating with the same tone, voice, and enthusiasm about healthy food as food that we have emotional connections with because we see them as treats and rewards. We teach our children that those are the foods that's fun to eat. The tone in which healthy food is often just presented in as a chore or a task, and that is not what anybody wants to do, especially if you're 2 or 3 and now you have to eat something that you are not excited about. So here is Peter drinking a homemade juice. I have to say, I don't have a particularly adventurous eater. He was actually, I bought into the trap that he was a picky and fussy eater. And actually, he was eating less and less and less variations of food. So I invested in a good juicer and a good blender, and just like a laminator is now part of our household kit, so should a good juicer and a good blender be part of everybody's kitchen, because smoothies and juices and soups are just great for incorporating more nutrient-dense food into our child's daily diet. Because remember, 5 a day is our minimum. It's not what we're aiming for. That's our baseline of nutrition. Raw, fresh fruit and vegetables are the real powerhouses of micronutrients. And these micronutrients are required for optimum health. When I was first presenting Peter with homemade soups, I presented it in a small cup with a fun design, so it made it look fun, and it was quite liquidy, and we used a straw so that he could basically almost taste it before seeing it, and that worked really well. I like to add frozen spinach to smoothies to add extra nutrients. You can't taste it. And if you use a smoothie cup that is not transparent, that has a fun design on it, the children can't even see what is in there, and they won't see something green that will scare them away. I like to add peanut butter powder and not peanut butter to smoothies, and that is to keep the fat content lower. And make smoothies and juices part of your morning ritual. They are high in nutrients and they hydrate the body. Offer fruit with another fruit. So if you know your child eats apples and they eat pears, start with apples and pears, offer them together. If you offer an apple, a piece of apple with a yogurt, they might choose the yogurt every time, and you want to focus on increasing their daily intake of fruit and vegetables when it's not meal times, when it's snack times. So when there is no parenting going on almost, that is just, it's snack time. These are the snacks that are available. These are the snacks on your snack tray. And don't limit fruit and vegetables. If they want to eat 5 plums, let them eat 5 plums. Fruit and vegetables are information to the body, and they might know in that moment their body is telling them that is the information I require. And the more of that raw energy and raw information they get, the more it connects with them on a mind and soul level. It really nurtures mind, body, and soul. So when offering new food on a plate, let's say cucumber, I would offer a quarter slice of a cucumber with a meatball. If you know they love meatballs, put 1 meatball on the plate and a small piece of cucumber. And hopefully you've had an opportunity to plan to have cucumber in your sensory play already. So your child's already had exposure and they've already had experience with this food. They're not seeing it for the first time on their plates. And They've already had their smoothie, they've already had their juice, they've already been snacking on raw fruit and vegetables through the day. So you are now focusing in a relaxed manner only for them to try it. And again, you take away the word eat. So you would say, enjoy your dinner, and can you lick it? Can you kiss it? Can you touch it? Can you lick your finger? And as a sweetener, of course, we know young children love sweet food. Who doesn't? The best sweetener is raw honey, not processed honey. Look out for your honey that says raw honey. I've already mentioned, get yourself that juice from blender if you don't have one already. And if you have one and it's in the cupboard, take it out, dust it off. It is the best investment you will make into your health, your family's health, your child's health as they are growing their bodies and developing their immune systems. So one of the first juices I used to introduce juicing to Peter was half apple, half orange. Now we're able to add some ginger, and he likes pineapple in there. So, you get to explore more as time goes on. Another favorite is watermelon with frozen strawberries and a bit of coconut water. Delicious and super hydrating. And I've already mentioned about frozen spinach in the freezer. Also, make sure that in the freezer you've got frozen berries, frozen spinach. You can add some frozen bananas in there, and that is wonderful to use in your frozen banana ice cream recipes. So I've included some easy to follow recipes to give you some inspiration on healthy versions of food that we like, that our children like, that they are used to, because we don't want to feel that we're denying them any fun food. But what a great way to be relaxed about how much sugar they're eating, or are they eating enough healthy food, when you know that the food that you are making and providing for them on their snack tray is additive free, chemical free, and that's always the homemade is always the best place to start. I have also included sensory play recipes such as homemade play-doh. Um, all children love sensory play. It is a way to explore the world and connect all their senses together. So Mariette mentioned about, silly putty. So this is the same concept. Play-Doh, this Play-Doh recipe is super, super easy to make. And, you can make the Play-Doh, and even in your child's cooking utensil role play toys, use the Play-Doh and say, oh, this is orange. I'm eating an orange now. Oh, does what would an orange feel like? So you can incorporate it in that play. So I've added recipes for Play-Doh. Cloud dough is similar to kinetic sand. So children are able, almost like if you think you go to the beach and they make sand castles. So it's similar to that. So you can use small shapes to make 3D shapes with. I know in my class, all the children love sensory play. You can also use dry grains, pulses, so dry beans, rice, dry pasta, and they just love it because they can scoop it, they can run their fingers through it, and of course that is much easier to clean up. You can put letters, magnetic numbers, any kind of small animal. It's called small world play in nursery, and you put that in there, so you broaden their experience and also involve all their senses. So I think that brings me to the end of this presentation. Thank you so much for your time. I will just stop sharing this, and then I will bring us to some of the potty training tips. So yeah, I've done a presentation for us on potty training that Mariette will share And I just want to say that potty training is a milestone to be celebrated. It is such a wonderful milestone that in EYFS, in the early years foundation stage, it is seen, it actually falls under personal development and self-care, because your child is really learning or expressing how they are becoming independent and confident and can stand on their own feet. And that is like one of the big things that we look for, is that independence and confidence for school readiness. Um, so yeah, so you will see in the document I've shared, I will share, I have shared some of the tips that will help support you in putting some steps in place before you even start the process, and that will help support you and your child to a successful potty training experience. And thank you very much.